Hi there. We're here with Anderson Cook and Amanda Darkangelis. And rather than mangle their credits, I thought it would probably be easier and more fun if they just introduced themselves. So, guys, if you want to talk a little bit about, your background, where you came from, where you're at, that sort of thing. Amanda, do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I went to the Boston Conservatory for musical theater as a performer, with a concentration in songwriting. And I wrote a few tunes in college that kind of piqued his interest. A mutual friend introduced us, and then he came to me. He's like, "I've got a great idea," and I was like, "Oh, tell me more." And that was it. We wrote the Disembodied Hand that fisted everyone to death for the Bad Theater Fest. And this was after I had graduated. I was back in New York, and Andy was at NYU. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should I take over in a second?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm going to my background a little bit. I'm from California originally. I went to NYU, the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU, where I got my BFA in dramatic writing. And I'm currently getting my MFA at Carnegie Mellon in dramatic writing as well, under Rob Hendel. Amanda and I met through a mutual friend that I had done theater with my whole life. And Amanda had this song about a vibrator that her friend showed me, and I was like, oh my God, I have to meet her. Like, our sense of humor is exactly the same. We love the same demented, terrible thing. And we did this musical about fisting that we thought was going to have two performances and sort of took off. Became this whole thing. It played in New York for like over a year at a couple different theaters, and then it was at the Boston Conservatory, and we're currently in the process of getting it put up at theaters in other parts of the U.S. and abroad as well. So things have gone crazy with that, and then we're just working.
Well, then after that, we did another musical. We did a also at People's Improv Theater, because that's where we did Disembodied Hand first. We did a show called Blatantly Blaine, and that ran for almost 2 months at the Pit. So two full shows together, and now Andy's off, at Carnegie Mellon, and I'm in the BMI Lehman Engel musical theater workshop. So we're both kind of honing and learning, and we're currently working on.
Yeah. Are you still collaborating over the long distance?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that like? Because I've only seen you guys together. There's so much warm, wonderful chemistry. I know, for instance, when we were doing one of your pieces in the New Voices project, and we went for one of your crasser jokes and really, really pushed it. Both of you laughed exactly at the same time in the same way. Does that translate over the distance? How is your long distance collaboration?
I would say it's definitely much harder.
It's a difficult thing to do. We really like to work in the room together and just pace around and bounce ideas back and forth. But given if we're working on deadlines and stuff, the work always gets done. A lot of time, it's a video chat or talk on the phone and really chat it out and set aside time to do that. And
yeah, I feel like it's still crucial for us to at least get together once or twice for a draft of something, because we do basically perform the whole thing ourselves as like all the different characters, and clearly we write things that make us laugh and we love, like, no matter who the audience is that's going to receive it, and we've been very lucky to have people receive it well, but it is always been first and foremost what makes us laugh the most.
Yeah. Are you finding how do I put this? More than a cult audience, I was about to say you're an acquired taste, but I don't know that it's a taste you can acquire. It's probably a taste you either have or you don't. And there's probably a lot of people who are just rabid fans of you and kind of funny, pushing, crass envelope. Are you? How do you find? How do you expand that audience beyond?
We've been lucky enough to be given the opportunity to perform in comedy theaters mostly, right? So we have that audience, and then we've got legitimate musical theater performers performing it. So then we kind of loop in the whole musical theater crowd in New York, and they're pretty open to it. They're like, this is humor that you see on TV, you see in kind of like crass stand up, and it is applicable in musical theater, and like you can push it. And we've been really lucky that people kind of like it and they want more and they know what's going on. And
yeah, I mean, I feel like we always we're not expecting, but weren't that surprised when people our age really responded to it. But over the last couple shows, we started to see people older and older than us that are like, clearly they don't know anyone in the show. They just heard about this somehow, and they come to the show. And we've only had like one or two people like walk out and demand their money back from like being too offended. So like it hasn't been too terrible. It could have been much worse for the content of some of our shows, I think.
Yeah, it could indeed. Yeah. Have you had conversations with commercial producers who are on either side of the fence? What I'm looking for is if you have conversations with a producer that says, "I love you guys. I don't know exactly where to put you, but I really would. You have an audience." Or conversations with a producer that says, "I can't touch you guys. It's just too controversial for me." Have you had those?
We've had the conversations amongst ourselves first, and the example I always go to is that Bobby Lopez wrote Book of Mormon and Frozen. So like, it's definitely possible to do both, and I feel like the people that we have gotten lucky enough to do commissions for, it's generally something that's more their brand, and they see what we do and they like what we do and see that we have a voice and a very strong, unique voice, and they like that enough to trust us to try to adapt it to things that could be more family friendly.
Would you guys write a Frozen if that opportunity came your way?
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. I mean, like, we came from performing that stuff. It's like we developed our own kind of twisted sense of humor, but the heart of it's there in a lot of work. So I would be thrilled to get to write something utterly magical. I think I think that would flex a really cool muscle.
Yeah, it would be very delightful, I think, in a certain way for us to like follow a different, because a lot of times I feel like we have the ethos of like, you come to the decision and we're like, let's see how this one plays out. We're more interested in this crazy off the wall. Let's make it make sense in this world and make that choice be strong and like consistent across everything. But to go, off a different ethos of being like, all right, let's make this as magical as possible, like you said, would be a very fun challenge.
Right. Are you tempted? And then I'll get off the the personal taste tangent. Are you tempted to write something that is so G-rated and pastel and happy just to have it as a contrast? Or are you like, not interested in that?
I mean, writing music, I've written children's music and a lot of children's entertainment. I've actually done a lot of that separate from Anderson. So that's basically my second wheelhouse. It's like I do really super crass humor and then like children's humor and music and stuff like that. So it's really kind of funny. So the answer for me is that's kind of also what I do. And I think for Andy, it wouldn't be too far off, his imagination is insane.
I mean, I just finished up like a 6-month stint as a story consultant for a children's app on like a game, like designing characters for them and creating their magical world for how these weird animals interact and stuff. So it's just a different part of your brain, I think.
Yeah, neat. So talk to me about your experience with New Voices project and what that was like to work essentially long distance with total strangers, dramaturgs and actors who didn't know you and didn't know your work. What was that like for you guys?
It was awesome. You get to see a completely unbiased performance, a completely unbiased opinion of it all. You get to see what lands and what doesn't in its purest form. It's like there's no outside influence, and that was super important for us.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, when we're writing and creating things, it's going on its feet almost immediately. We've been lucky enough to be writing for performance. So, we write it and it happens and it's done. And it was really cool to see things play out in a different way, and sometimes in a very similar way. That you're like, oh, okay, so this joke will land this way.
Yeah, always.
And then, okay, this is very tailored to us or people that we particularly wrote it for.
Yeah, like just someone's voice.
Right, and like what is someone's voice and what is the character?
Yeah. As my professor Carnegie Mellon says that our scripts need to be the reason that he's such a stickler about formatting and about like the rules of how all this is that our scripts need to exist so that if we get hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody can do it and produce this play or musical exactly as we've written it, exactly as we intended it. So it's always very, very helpful to see like, oh, I understand exactly why they thought that and why it wasn't what I wanted to communicate. And like, the discrepancy, you're like, oh, I understand the thing that I did that made that unclear.
That's really, I love that response, because I felt at the end of the day, we as a troupe understood much of your work, but I thought we slightly missed the tone or the exaggeration or the balance of realism with the blames. I felt like we were guessing rather than we knew what you wanted and were trying to deliver it. Did you sense that? And is that something you think you can do on the page to help strangers be closer to what you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Amanda said, we were writing for performance. Like when we wrote Blaine originally, I think we wrote it in 3 weeks total because of just like the agreement that we set up with the theater and stuff. So we definitely took some shortcuts and like knowing that they're like, our friend's going to know exactly what we mean by this, like, and by this thing. And then of course you give it to a stranger who like doesn't know the inner workings of your particular mind as well. And you can see that the consistency in the rules exist for a reason, you know, and they make it so that there's a common language that goes across like all practitioners of theater, wherever you are.
Yeah, neat. So I'd be interested to know from your perspective, because you're just sort of entering the world of new musicals as a career and as a life choice. Where do you think new musicals are headed in America and beyond? What's the future of new musicals? But both what do you think it's going to be, and what would you like it to be?
So what I think we've seen, we've seen a lot of, movie musical adaptations. It's a very common thing. That's it's very sellable. It's very, it's not easy to do, but it's definitely something that is prevalent. And really where it's all heading is towards, diversity in casting and in storytelling and hearing, points of view that we just have not heard from before. And that's kind of where we hope to land and hope to be able to provide opportunities to tell different stories and different points of view.
Yeah.
I think it's heading towards that. And you have, Hamilton, and then you have there's so many.
I think like diversity also of like specific demographics, of course, but also like when I think about like that sort of diversity and like what I really love about our shows is that clearly we're both trying to educate ourselves more in musical theater and have a big history in musical theater. And we love it so much. We love studying the form of it. Is to people. I love Bobby Lopez so much because he respects the musical form so much with subject matter that is you would never have seen on a Broadway stage 20 years ago. And the fact that you can, of course you can like smash open the musical form like Hamilton and create something new and totally different that people have never seen on the stage. But I love my old stuff, and I love seeing that like these songs that I recognize and these sounds, and these specific tropes and moments in musicals that are like reappropriated to talk about real new serious subjects in a new way.
The form works, and it's a matter of manipulating old forms to create new fresh content.
Cool. So here's another fantasy question we've been asking many of the people we're interviewing. If you had a whole whack of money that landed in your checking account, you could spend it on new musicals. Let's say $100 million that you could spend on new musicals. How would you spend that?
Are we producing, or are we producing our own show?
It's your money now, so you can do with it whatever you want. It's unfettered. It's even untaxed.
Oh,
I didn't know it.
Well, we can start a company, sure.
Yeah, we'd start our own production company first off. Just think that we're already talking about we don't have $100 million. I think there is like it's weird because I'm in the playwriting world as well, obviously. So in the playwriting world, there's a lot of support for the early career writers, meaning like people who have never had a production at all, And I feel like the musical theater world is still kind of in a place with like the Richard Rogers Awards and even like Brian Beck, a lot of the music theater writers retreats that are for like emerging writers. I'm like, this person has had an off-Broadway musical. How emerging can they be? And they're just people who are a lot more accomplished and older than us that are going after the same awards as us. And I feel like the musical theater world doesn't have that same in-between step of like grants that are smaller money that aren't, I don't know how much is it charge, like $50,000, that aren't like a huge sum of money, but are smaller. And the thing that you can, because it's like the money is important for those things, of course, but like the real purpose of them, I think, is to get your work in front of new people, make these new connections, and try to find new avenues into musical theater, which I know that there's a lot less of them than there are in the playwriting world right now. So I think I would devote some of our money to true early career musical theater writers.
Yeah, that's so important. And just being able to support that. And printing is like a huge thing that I think I have.
We would spend our $100 million on printing.
I would provide free printing for scores for all musical theater posters. That's what it would be.
Yeah, that's our $100 million. That's our fund.
That's it.
Excellent. And then let me leave you with one final question. If you have some advice for new musical writers, and that could be advice for yourself, or what have you learned in school or having gotten thus far, what would you say to writers of new musicals? How would you advise them in their careers?
I'll say first, just put it up on stage. It is the biggest boon to us in the world. Stop waiting for someone else's permission. Stop trying to get into the right contest.
Yeah.
Put it up on stage tomorrow. That's like the best thing for all of us. Like every good thing that's happened to us has happened because we were like, I don't care if it's ready or not. Let's do it now. Let's put it on stage. Let's get it going. And like you revise, it gets better. The show that we did over a period over a year changed so much. Right. It's not like it was like perfect and on stage. Like it changed every show. But that's the point. You get to like workshop it and get better.
And I would say don't filter yourself. So often you see, people succeeding and you're like, okay, they're succeeding because they're doing this, and maybe I should be doing this as well, and that's the absolute what you do. The one thing you should do is always trust your own voice. That's the only thing that's going to make you stand out from anyone else.
Yeah.
Your own voice and your own opinion. And they could be wrong. Some people might just be wrong, or they just trust that that's what's going to.
That's great. That's great advice. So, well, I thank you, Amanda and Anderson. This has been great, and do keep us informed about your completed shows as well as the new ones that you're about to work on. You guys are a delightful team, and it's really, really great to know you guys.
Thanks so much. This has been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you.